गुड आफ्टरनून स्टूडेंट्स। बहुत टाइम के बाद मिल रहे हैं। उसी में चैप्टर 5 हम लोग स्टार्ट करने वाले, दैट इज फॉर्म्स ऑफ बिजनेस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन पार्ट 2। सो देखा जाएगा तो इंडिया में अगर आप इंडियन सेक्टर की इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर की बात करोगे तो यहाँ पे दो सेक्टर जो है वो प्राइमरीली आपको मिलेंगे। एक तो प्राइवेट सेक्टर और एक पब्लिक सेक्टर जो है, जो जिनका को एग्जिस्टेंस है अपने इकोनॉमी में। Because both of these sectors they operate like in a parallel way. At a time, public sector it is also operating. At a time, private sector it is also operating. There are certain advantages and certain disadvantages of both of these sectors. But what is a primary difference between these sectors is that their objectives. The private sector basically it is owned by the private organization, as we all know that, but their main objective is profit maximization. At a time, public sector they aims at providing reliable services to the customers, or you can say to the citizens of this country. So there are actually a lot of sectors which are primarily reserved for a public sector, like you can call it as a post or other sectors which are right now open for this private, like even the food industry. But right now there is an entries of private sector in these areas like post, or you can say food industry, etc. and etc. So right now both of these sectors they are helping our economy to achieve the objectives and to maintain that growth rate which we are aiming at. Now in this chapter or in this thing we are going to study the further more types of the private of the organization, that primarily includes departmental stores, then statutory corporation, then government companies and multinational corporations. So coming back to our definition part, meaning part, as we all know that public sector organizations are those organizations which are owned, financed, managed and controlled by the government or combination of government, that is by central government and state government, by multiple state governments, or by central plus multiple state governments. Example that is BPCL, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited. These are the examples of giant public corporations. So what is the definition of this public sector as per Britannica Encyclopedia? An undertaking that is owned by central, state or local government, supplies services or goods at a price and is operated on more or less self-supporting basis. That is known as a public sector organization. There is another definition, Professor Hansen, that public sector organization, or you can say public enterprises, means state ownership and operation of industrial, agricultural, financial and commercial undertaking. So basically what that Professor Hansen means, he want to say that ownership belong to the state, or you can say that ownership belong to the government, and operations of all the sectors, like operations of all types of industries, they are conducted by the public sector or by the government. So basically if you classify these public sector enterprises, there are three broad types which we are going to study: departmental organizations, then statutory corporations and government companies. Because that the last one which I said earlier, that multinational company, it is a type of a private corporation. So first moving on to the departmental store, the organization which is owned, managed, controlled and financed by the government, it is known as a departmental organization. It is the most oldest form of business organization and it performs all activities as integral part of government only. For example, departmental store it is different and departmental organization it is different. Such organizations they operates on branches basis, or they operates on various department basis, like they have their offices set up in the different part of the city or different part of the country, and mainly they operates as a government concern only. Example अगर लिया जाएगा तो पोस्ट ऑफिस है, रेलवेज है, डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री है, रेडियो इंडस्ट्री है. These are the examples of departmental organizations because they operate on a department basis. It is not like that only one department or only one organization's part is concerned. There are a lot of parts or a lot of sectors that are involved in this thing. And the ministry in charge of the ministry is head of this organization. Means if you talk about the railway, the whomsoever the minister in charge, that is of railway ministry, that person will be the head of this department. And again, they act through their officers and their employees, and those officers, those employees are known as the government employee. Certain features of departmental organization which we must know. That first one, it is managed by the government. As we all know that departmental organization, it is a concerned government department, and the minister at top, or you can say the head minister, is responsible for the all things and all operations, as you know. Delegation of authority, there is a downward delegation of authority which is affected from top executive to the every part of organization. The major decision making or planning, it is conducted at a top level, and the implementation of this decision, it is done by the lower level managers. Then finance by the government, as we all know, departmental departmental organization, it is controlled, it is governed, it is managed by the government. So obviously, it is financed through annual budget appropriations made by the legislation, and its revenue are directly paid to the government. Okay, so government treasury में इनका पैसा जाता है. Obviously, it is run by the department government, because the different procedures like budgeting, accounting, auditing, everything it is done by the government only. And departmental organizations, they do not enjoy separate legal entity, because departmental organization and government, they both are one and only same. So there is no separate existence from government, and they are working under the concerned ministry. Then a government employee, as we all know, it is integral part of government, and it acts through its officers, employees, and all those people who are working with this with this departmental organization, they are known as the government employees. As I always said, that every coin has a two sides. First one is a merit, second one is a demerit. Okay, so first we are moving to the merits of the departmental organization. The first one, it is departmental organization. They are directly controlled by the government concern or by the government. So it is the direct control of government is involved in this sector. So direct decisions, they can be made by the government. Then whatever the revenue or whatever the income which is earned by the departmental organization, it is directly paid to the government treasury. So direct revenues to the government. Then there are very less overheads, since they are operated by the government themselves. So there are very less overheads, because they don't need to hire any external staff for administration or for any other thing. All those government employees, they themselves manage all these things. Then again, you can say there is a proper control of the funds, because such undertakings, they are subject to the risk, subject to the strict control and supervision, and so the chances of misuse of the fund is very low in such kind of organizations. Then the fifth one, it is they have qualified staff, because major staff, it is like you can say they are trained by the government, and that staff or that management is properly done. The organization is properly managed, and this is like the success of the organization. It is mainly depend upon the qualified staff, and all those departmental organizations, they have their qualified staff. And they maintain a secrecy, because organization, they maintains maximum amount of secrecy, and they take care of all the goods and services, rather essential goods and services. So there is a secrecy, there is no risk of leakage of information to the outsiders. Okay, moving on towards the demerits of the organization. The first one, it is a delay in action. Means government organization, these departmental organizations, they are operated by the government, and there is a centralization of authority, and excessive centralization leads to the delay in decision making, because that minister in charge, he has to do all a lot of works, you can say, because or you can say he has to perform a lot of works. So he might not be available for the available. What you can say, as you know, that उतना टाइम नहीं निकाल पाते होंगे like for काम करने के लिए, means he might not be available for for every time. Whenever that company needs that person, needs that minister, he may be busy with some other things, or he may be busy with some other schedule or other works which he has to do. So that is why, because of this excessive centralization, what happens is that whenever that person, he needs to take certain decision, what he's going to do, he is going to perform that job, but after completing all other necessary duties. So there is a delay in action. Then there is a bureaucracy, if you know that, obviously it is a departmental organization. There is a bureaucracy, high bureaucracy is there, and that is why there is a you can say it affects the trustworthiness of the organization. Then there is a low scope for initiative, because there is rather you can say there is no scope for initiative or skills as a procedure, because whatever the procedure it is done or whatever the work they are done by departmental organization, it is strictly they need to stick to the procedures and policies which are formed in the parliament. So it's like they cannot take you can say whatever cannot take initiative or they cannot take any innovative steps so that they can make that change in the procedure or change in the organization. Since it is a government organization, whatever the changes you have to do, obviously they need a permission of parliament, and that is a long process, we all know. Then as I already told you that they are stick to the procedures and policies, so there is a less flexibility involved. And right now that minister is busy with other things, so there is a delay in action and there is a delay in decision making. And absence of professionalism, because major times such organizations means we discuss about that they have qualified staff, but it is not the case in all organizations. Sometimes they lack professionalism, they do not have that much of qualified staff. Again, there is a fear of public criticism over the performance of department. There is a frequent transfer of the officials. So everything that affects organization, and at the end it leads to the lack of the professionalism. So in fact, if you if you focus on whatever we discuss, is that departmental organization, they are type of business organization which are mainly governed by the government, and they have all those merits, but at a time they also have all those demerits which normal government organization which possesses. Because in our day-to-day life, every time we used to come across such government departments, every time we used to go to such departments for certain work, and we always experience, and that is what I think we have discussed here. Okay, so let's move on to the next type, that is statutory corporations. These are the corporations, or these are the anonymous corporate body, but and they are incorporated under a special act. Means a lot of companies, they are incorporated under Companies Act 2013, but these statutory corporations, they are incorporated under the special act. If you take example that there is a LIC, there is a SEBI, there is a RBI. These kind of statutory corporations, they are enacted under the special act, like RBI Act, then SEBI's Act, okay, IRDA Act. It is for governance of insurance authorities. Okay, so all these organizations which are enacted under a special law, they are known as a statutory corporation. Again, we will move forward to the features of this type of organization. The first one is a corporate body. The statutory organization, it is an artificial person which is created by the law, and it has independent legal entity. Like in case of department organization, they do not have independent they are not independent legal entity. They do not have separate legal existence, but in this case, they have their separate legal existence, and they are managed by the board of directors which are appointed by the government. And that corporation, it can enter into the contract, it can undertake any kind of business, since it is a separate legal person. Then this statutory corporation, they are answerable to the legislation. Then the statutory corporations, they parliament, the parliament do not have a right to interfere in the working of such corporations. It can only discuss the policy matters and overall performance, but at the end of the day, such statutory corporations, they are answerable to the legislation, not a parliament. Then they have their own staffing system. These employees, they are not a government servants, and even though this type of organization, it is owned by the government, managed by the government, because those board of directors, they are managed by the government as we discussed, but still those employees, they are not government employees. Such employees, they receive balance or uniform payment, they receive the benefit from the government. They are recruited, they are remunerated, they are governed by the rules laid down by the corporation. If you are talking about the RBI, they have their separate exams conducted. They conduct separate exams for RBI officer level, RBI clerk level, and it is not like that, okay, you have to MPSC, UPSC, and then you can appear for RBI. They have their separate, they have their different system. So they have their own staffing system. Then financial autonomy. Such statutory corporations, they enjoy financial independence or financial autonomy because they are not subject to the budget, or they are not subject to the accounting or audit control. After getting proper permission from the government, they even can borrow money from the outside country or from the within country too. Then there is no political interference, since we know they are answerable to the legislation, not to the parliament. So there is no political interference in formation, working and administration of this concern, and all the statutory concerns, they are free from political interference. So moving on towards the merits of the company, merits of the statutory corporation, it has initiative and flexibility. The operations and management of statutory control, they are done independently, we know that thing. And so there is no government interference. Also, they can take their own initiative. They can manage their activities more flexibly. Then they have administration autonomy because no political interference is involved. They can they have their own staffing system. So there is autonomy in administration. Quick decision making it is involved because statutory corporation, they are free from a bureaucracy. So there is a quick decision making, means less file work it is required and more actual work it is done. Efficient staff, as we know, they have their own staffing system. They conduct their own exams, or they conduct the interviews, or they do recruitment in their own way. So more efficient staff it is employed with such corporations, and that helps to improve the performance of such corporations. And also the board of directors which manage this company, they are professional business experts, they are representatives of various business groups or various industrial groups. And again, those are nominated by government, but they are expert in their own field. Again, such corporations, they can borrow money from outside or within a country. So they can easily raise their capital. They don't need to depend on the budget or all those things. They can raise their capital by themselves. But certain demerits which we have to consider while discussing about these statutory corporations. The first one, it is autonomy, which we have discussed, that financial autonomy, administrative autonomy. But in the fact, what is the fact? Such autonomy, it is on paper only. Like actual में autonomy है नहीं. It's just like on paper. It is not happening in a practical life. Such autonomy and such flexibility of operations, it is for only a namesake. Practically, all those ministers, government officials, political parties, they often interfere in working of such organization because they are formed under a special act, and indirectly these officers, they can interfere in the working of this organization or the corporation. Again, they lack initiative because such corporation, they do not face any kind of competition, and again they are not guided by the profit motive. Like they do not have that target in their mind that okay, we have to earn more profits, and like there is a monopoly, means you cannot compete with RBA, right, or you cannot compete with the LIC. Obviously there are other insurance sectors or insurance companies in the market, but LIC is a giant corporation. So obviously because of lack of competition, that do not create enthusiasm in the staff, and it's like they do not take any initiative. It's just like they are coming to the office, they are working and they are leaving. So there is a lack of initiatives, and again there is no pressure of increase in the profit and all those stuff. So they lack initiative. Rigid structure, it is there. The objects and power of the statutory company, they are defined by the act, and they are amended only by amending those statute or those act. Because whatever the structure or whatever the way that companies are operating, they can change their working if there is a change in the law. And for bringing a change in the law, there is a lot of big procedures. So it is a rigid structure. Then clashes amongst the interest. Government employ those board of directors, and their work is to manage and operate some organizations, right? But as there are many members in this organization, in this type, it is quite possible that their interest may clash, because for the reason of smooth functioning of corporation, it may be hampered, or that smooth functioning, it cannot be achieved because of all those clashes. When unfair practices, the governing body of directors, they may indulge in certain unfair practices, and that they may charge highly prices for covering up their inefficiency, because as we all know, they are not concerned about the profit, but still they have to perform at certain levels. So for improving their you can say whatever you that their figures of the profit, they can charge high prices, and often there are unfair practices which are undertaken by the government officials. The two types which are still pending, there is government company and multiple multinational corporations. The firstly, we are we will be doing this topic in next lecture, because it is again a big topic, and I don't want that you will get bored because of all these things which I am talking. नहीं तो ऐसा हो जाएगा कि सर बड़बड़ा रहे, पका रहे और हम लोग पक गए, ठीक है? So in next lecture we will do this thing, that is government company and multinational company and certain other things which we are going to discuss. But right now, start reading the chapter thoroughly, because maybe your college might take online exam, or that pattern it is still unclear, that picture is still unclear. But I think so. Hopefully, government will guide us that what kind of exams or what will be the exact structure, because the circulars they are released by the government regarding the degree college examinations, and now there is a clarity about this degree college examination. That exam, it is like for TY/BCom exam, it is sure that it is going to be online and MCQ better. So in that way, obviously government will again guide us that how the exams of FYJC they are going to conduct. But most probably, I think college will take their call, and that's what I am saying. Just start preparing, because you need to read the chapter thoroughly, and whatever the points which you are learning means best technique to learn means specifically those for those people from vernacular medium. They found it difficult to remember those points. So remember those head points, and what is the meaning of that point. Means if I am talking about the efficiency, if you are from a vernacular medium, if you are from a Hindi medium, from Marathi medium, from any other medium, remember what is efficiency in your own mother tongue, so that it will help you that okay, efficiency मतलब क्या. अगर आपके दिमाग में efficiency मतलब क्या यही नहीं आ रहा, तो I don't think you can write anything. So always read that term, उसका मीनिंग आपका मदर टंग में आप याद रखो, so that एग्जाम में अगर आप बुलेट पॉइंट लिखोगे तो आपको मालूम है कि इसका मीनिंग क्या है. So एक ही काम बचता है कि जस्ट उस मीनिंग को आपको इंग्लिश में फ्रेम करना है. So I think that you can do this thing, right? So this is the way you have to study. And if there is a chances of MCQ is coming, that our textbook has a lot of MCQ and all those questions. So start reading them. Okay. So we will meet in the next lecture. And tomorrow it is a Holi. So take care of your family. I know government is taking the efforts. So but you have to take care of your family. Okay. So we will meet in the next lecture. Till now, bye bye. Enjoy your festival. Happy Holi. Bye bye. Take care.